Greetings, visionaries. This is your host, the INFJ Visionary, and the topic of today's broadcast is intuition. I don't know if we've made it its own topic in the past. If we have, that's okay, because it's a pretty deep subject. So I've had some thoughts and ideas about intuition, because it's sort of mysterious, isn't it? Even, for us regular intuition users. Like I've mentioned, I had a excellent comment probably a month ago now where someone said easy to use, hard to describe, and that's the truth. But I'm not so much going to try and describe what intuition is as what I think it is. So I guess I am. Okay, I do. If you've seen the channel, you know that I'm not that big on believing things, but I'm okay with entertaining beliefs, and there's a distinction there, a definite distinction. It's a threshold, right? So you can think something is mostly true, and entertain the belief, but you want to stop short of actually believing. And one of the things that I entertain as a belief is a belief in reincarnation. It just makes a lot of sense. I've read a lot of books. There's a lot of documented evidence. Now, I'm not here to convince you of it. In fact, I don't really need to worry about that because I just entertain the belief anyway. So you can entertain any belief about it that you want. But just for the sake of this broadcast, let's entertain the belief in reincarnation. Now, because it explains so much about the nature of our existence. And how does this tie into intuition? Well, one guy I used to follow, his particular philosophy said that, after you die, you go through this process of condensation where your whole life is compressed into just a few drops of intuition that you carry through into your next existence. And this resonates with me. I think there's a lot to this. So intuition could very much be just accessing knowledge from your past selves. And this would explain a lot. First of all, it would explain why people that use, like us, that use intuition as our primary information gathering, our information processing system, are quite rare because I think it and I'm coming at this not from any kind of place of ego. I'm just saying, and it's not just us INFJs. I would say this is true of all intuition users, including the extroverted intuition users. So, we'll just put that out there. How do you know? How do you know something? Well, it's quite conceivable that you knew it in the past, in another existence, and you have access to that information. Not only that, entertaining a belief like this is empowering, right? In many cases, when we're laying our intuitive insights on people, a lot of times they'll say, well, how do you know? You don't know. And, I've been in that situation. In fact, I don't think there was any other intuitives in my family when I was growing up. So I was pretty well equipped to deal with this sort of thing by being able to kind of look into myself and examine the strands that led to the intuition. Now, some intuitions you have don't really have those strands. Sometimes you've got to make them up for the sensors in your life that need that kind of information. That doesn't come up all too often for me now. But I would imagine that would be the case quite a bit more. Say if you were in a proper job, where you had to do something, you had to deal with others, and if you're an INFJ, your introverted intuition is in the driver's seat, and you're going to be using it to interface with your job. So that could be a handy skill to develop. However, it doesn't mean that that's necessarily where intuition comes from. It's not necessarily from little strands of this and that you picked up. That's a low-hanging fruit. That's not explaining some of the deep things that you have knowing about. I think you can really, really open yourself up to this idea if you want, because it is, like I said, very empowering. So not only do you have access to all of the information that you would have gathered in this existence, but potentially over thousands of existences. And this gets into why maybe I think some people are more intuitive than others, and this is maybe a function of being an older or a younger soul. Now, we've all known people that were physically older than us that definitely didn't seem to be older, and it's quite often that the old soul appellation is slapped on the INFJ, and it's because it fits. And again, I'm speaking for myself. Sorry for the sniffle. There's quite a lot of smoke coming off the volcano today. Um, yeah, so maybe you've just been through here more times, and for that reason, you'll lean into the intuition increasingly more than other people would. Now, I do think that everyone has access to intuitive faculties, and it uses them all the time, sometimes in small ways. In fact, if you're not an INFJ or one of the intuition forward types, it's going to be just small ways, but it's still there, it's still operative, and incredibly powerful because I've told this tale before, but when I was a young dragon, I had a job, and I ended up in a management position here, and it wasn't just being a manager. I was also working directly with the customers, managing the staff in the back, ordering in materials, doing pricing, and occasionally working on the floor myself when things got very busy. Sorry for the sniffle. I was stretched incredibly thin, and I was in my 20s. So because of this, I found myself leaning into my intuition more and more. I might be working up in the office, pricing something or placing an order for materials, but I get a premonition, a prompting, go in the back and check on this or that employee there. And sure enough, I would do that, and they'd be right on the cusp of cutting, you know, maybe 1,000 boards a half inch too small, which would have meant that they wouldn't fit with the glass or the moldings or anything else. It would have been an incredible loss of money, and because the quantities involved were so great, it might also mean that the deadline would be missed because I would have to somehow find replacement materials. So catching a mistake like that is, obviously a big deal. This happened again and again, and not just in the case of, I don't know about you, I never hear a voice in my head. The only time I ever heard a voice in my head was under the influence of a massive quantity of fungi. I can't say I really enjoyed that, but that was a voice, and even that wasn't a voice, it was more like kind of a subtle voice. I don't hear a distinct voice. Maybe some of you do. I'd be interested to know in the comments if you do. But what I get is a knowing, a premonition, and it's often explicit. It's often saying this, that, or the other thing. And now, my partner, Mrs. Dragon, she gets, I don't know if she hears I think she hears more distinct voices than I do, actually. She has the expert intuition. It's her in her second spot, with her being an INFP, and she'll have. There was some programs that she was listening to the other day, and she heard a voice say, "No, don't do this," and she listened to it. So I think it'd be cool if you heard an actual voice in your head. That would be amazing. But I don't. I just get a knowing, a feeling. And ever since that job, when I was quite young, I barely knew what intuition was. When I was a young dragon, intuition almost always had the word feminine in front of it, and I'm not. It was almost always feminine intuition. But I started to learn about intuition from there, and fast forward 10, 15 years, I learned about being an INFJ, and I learned it's my primary function and that it's driving the ship. And that was incredibly valuable information to me. So that's a few ideas and insights about intuition until I come back in a couple more days. keep on keeping on, INFJs.